Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I'll be going through my round 5 tipping, in which I had not the greatest round, a 6 out of 9. I mean, I only dropped 34 places or something like that, so I'm still up there. But yeah, I dropped a little bit of ground, so now I'm 2 tips behind quite a few people, so that kind of sucks. So not out of it, but just a little bit off the pace. So hopefully we can catch up some ground this week and not go for some outlandish picks that I sort of underestimated Collingwood a little bit last week, as well as, most people did get the... I didn't think Freo would do well without Bowers, but that's obviously not the case. And then we also had the West Coast game where they sort of stunk the place up. Port Adelaide stunk the place up and lost to West Coast. And West Coast snapped that 10-game losing streak or 11-game losing streak. So... anyway, that sort of sucked, but that's that. And so we'll go through that, as well as we will go through and tip for round 6. And this will come out on Thursday, so that you guys have that a day in advance for the Friday start, I believe they have. But anyway, let's get into the video. So as you can see here, I had Melbourne by 20, and if we go by the numbers, they obviously didn't win by 20. They won by 49, so I was 29 points off there. Then we go over to Richmond by 14, and this is where it starts to derail. 21 points off there, as well as a loss, which is not the best tip, obviously. Carlton, I had by 16. They beat the Swans by 5, so I got that tip right, I guess, but I was 11 points off there, so still not the greatest tip. We want to be closer than that. St Kilda got that tip right. That was a really good tip, actually, going by the numbers of what it was, and I had them by 8, but they ended up winning by 18, so I was 10 points off there. Port Adelaide by 13, and this is where my round starts to derail. I get the next 2 picks wrong. I have Port Adelaide by 13. They end up losing by 6. So I got that tip obviously wrong by 19 points, which is just not good, obviously. And then this is probably the tip of the round that sort of really sent me backwards. I believe I was like 24th before all this happened with Collingwood. And so, yeah, Collingwood winning really sent me back a lot. I believe it sent me back something like 65 or something, 66 places. So I got Essendon wrong, and I tipped Collingwood, and I tipped so I tipped Essendon by 11. Collingwood won by 20, so I ended up getting this wrong by 31. So that was just a really bad tip. North, I had by 45. I thought they'd smoke them, and they kind of did. But if they didn't tag Buddy Garner, it probably would have been 45 points. But I was 15 points off there, as they ended up winning 32-30. Hawthorn put up a valiant effort against Brisbane. I believe they were up at quarter time or something, or close at half time as well, only down by like 8 or something like that. But ended up losing by 27. So that was probably the best tip of the round, as you can see here. Yeah, best tip of the round is alongside this Carlton tip as well. And then Adelaide, I had winning by 40. And again, another 8-point margin. So if you actually tally that up, that's 50, 71, 90, 121, plus 31 is 152 overall as well. So a little bit, as you can see, worse than the 139 that I had last round. And I can go back, obviously, at the end of the season and see which round was actually my best. But a 152 isn't necessarily the worst through 9 games, but hopefully we will get better than that for next week. So going on to next week, so round 6, we actually have quite a tight game to start. You have Western Bulldogs, for some reason, are tipped to be the favourites, even though they're 0-5 and Carlton are 3-2. So I'm actually going to tip Carlton to win in round 6. I think it will be a tight one, as Western Bulldogs lost by 18 to St Kilda. They looked a little bit better in that St Kilda game, but do I think that they're going to necessarily knock over Carlton? I don't think so. I don't know if any of them have major injuries. I haven't checked that out, as I don't really check that out for the women's as much. So I'm going to pick Carlton here in this game, if I can actually write it down. Carlton, and I'm going to tip them by, what do we think, maybe 10 or so? That's 20, that's 10. So we'll pick Carlton by 10. This one could go either way, obviously, as you can see by this. But I think Carlton should be favourites in this game. Then you've got GWS against West Coast, and what a game this is. I'm going to tip GWS. Well, it's not really a good game, is it? Because they're both bottom of the ladder, but it's going to be a tight one, actually. So I'm going to tip GWS in this game. I think, I don't know what went wrong with the Port game. Whether they were they were inaccurate or something, I don't know. I think the Port game, they were inaccurate. Let me just check on my phone if that was the case. I believe Port might have kicked 4 goals 9, which did not help them, obviously. Thankfully, now that it's switched over to the women's instead of automatically switching to the men's. If we look here, 4 goals 9 to 6 goals 3. Do I think West Coast are going to kick that accurately again? I don't think so. GWS, that's going to be the struggle though. GWS don't tend to score, so hopefully they can put up a good score. GWS, led by Parker, I think they're going to win in a close one by 7 points, but I wouldn't mind seeing West Coast win this game, but I do think that if I go with GWS winning, then it won't hurt as much. Melbourne against the Crows, they're both undefeated. This one is a game for the ages. We got Melbourne. They beat Adelaide by 7. They beat Adelaide last round by 49. Kangaroos beat GWS beat Hawthorn by 59, and we have Adelaide defeating. Where are Adelaide? Adelaide defeating where are they? GWS by what is that? Almost 70 points, 69 points. You have here them beating Essendon, and you've got also Melbourne defeating, where's Melbourne? I lost it. Melbourne defeating Western Bulldogs by 42. You have them beating Richmond by 29, and you have Melbourne defeating GWS by 77. So Melbourne looks slightly better in this. Melbourne defeating Collingwood by 42, and Adelaide defeating Port Adelaide by 30. So I think if you go by this, you have to pick Melbourne, just on the basis that they're beating teams just slightly more than Adelaide are, and Adelaide, I think Melbourne just have a better balance, as well as Paxman returning back into form will be crucial for Melbourne. So I'm going to pick Melbourne in this game. I don't think it will be a blowout, but I don't think it will be that tight, to be honest. I think Melbourne by 17 points, as they seem to be able to have a scoring edge, so I think they'll be able to outscore them. Then you have Hawthorn against St Kilda, and Hawthorn's actually favourite by the tippers, but I think I really like St Kilda and the way that they're going about it. They ran over the top of Collingwood a couple of weeks ago, and then they ran over Western Bulldogs, whereas Hawthorn in round 5, if we look here, Hawthorn lost to Brisbane. The round before that, lost to Melbourne. The round before that, they lost to Fremantle, and the round before that, they beat the Bulldogs, didn't they? Yeah, they beat the Bulldogs by 7 points, and then also in the round before that, where is Hawthorn, where did they go? They lost to Essendon as well. So I actually rate St Kilda in this game, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go with St Kilda to win by, I think, what do we think? 12 points maybe? I think that's a fair margin. I don't think it'll be an onslaught. We've got Port Adelaide against Sydney. They think Port's going to beat Sydney? What? That's just going off last year, to be honest. Port have been horrific. They lost to West Coast. I mean, Sydney aren't the best, but I'm going to use my bias here and go for Sydney to win this game. I think Sydney's won an extra game. They ran it close against... they've been beaten pretty heavily by the top teams. But if we look at Port Adelaide's record here, round 1 they lost to... Where'd they go? They lost to Adelaide here, didn't they, by 30. Round 2, they lost to Brisbane by 50. And I know it's going to show Swans losing to Brisbane by more. Round 3, you can see Sydney lost to Brisbane by 55. And was Port beat St Kilda. Round 4, you've got here Port losing to Geelong by 28. And I think that's sort of the margin that that's done that. I'm going to have to go back in and rejig that. Didn't mean to click that button. Sydney lost by 27 to Geelong. So I think, let me just go here. So I picked Carlton by 10, obviously, GWS, Melbourne, St Kilda. Okay, then we got Swans. I don't know if it's actually picked the favourites, so that's a good thing. And yeah, so I'm gonna use my bias. I think Sydney's gonna win this game. So, if they lose, then so be it. I'm just having my fun at this point, and obviously, 74th ranked, so that could slide a little bit, but I actually genuinely think that the Swans are a better team. Yes, some people will use the not a bias, but the result of last year that the Swans got peppered by Port, but the Swans didn't have a midfield, as well as they've got Montana Ham returning this week, with more midfield time, which should be better. It's in her second game back from sitting out a week after coming back for a week from having injury through the whole preseason. So yeah, I think Swans are going to win a tight one by 14 points, and yeah, just hopefully if they can turn that result, then I'll jump up the table. Brisbane will beat Collingwood. I think Brisbane are one of the top teams, and who did they lose to? Brisbane. I forgot who they lost to. Oh, they lost to, out of their one game, they lost to Richmond, which was unexplainable. I don't know how, but I think they will blow away Collingwood by 35 points. Then you have Geelong versus Essendon. I think Geelong's going to win this game. They've just shown that they're pretty good, and they only lost to North Melbourne, if I got that correct. So I think Geelong's going to win this game by 32 points, I think. Then we have Richmond versus Gold Coast, and let's actually look at this. So Richmond are 3-2, Gold Coast are 3-2. Gold Coast ahead of them on the ladder. If we look at the last game, Gold Coast lost to Adelaide, and also Richmond lost to Freo. If we look at round 4, you have Richmond beating Carlton, and you've got Gold Coast just beating Western Bulldogs. Round 3, you've got Richmond beating GWS pretty convincingly, and you've got the Gold Coast Suns beating Collingwood. Then round 2, you had where is it? Gold Coast. Where's Gold Coast? Gold Coast beating West Coast really convincingly, and then you had Richmond losing to the Crows by 29, so that's a pretty good result. And then you had Gold Coast losing in round 1, and Richmond obviously beating Brisbane. So I think I'm going to pick Richmond just because their form, I think the teams that they've beaten have more credibility. But I wouldn't be surprised if Gold Coast do it again and surprise me again for about the third time. So I'm going to pick Richmond in a close game by 7 points. And then you got Kangaroos against Freo. Even with the addition of the likes of Bowers, that's not going to make a difference in this game, in my opinion. I think North run away with this by 33 points. So yeah, those are the tips. And so that's the video there. And I don't know if I'll have time to record the other video there, so you might have to, so hopefully we'll see what it is, but we may have we may only have 2 videos today, and then my team preview on Friday, as well as having some stuff on, the stuff may be pushed back till Saturday, etc. But we'll see. We'll see how timing goes. But anyway, that is the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.